It's a member of Navi's Zodiac series that can be potentially as dangerous as it is robotically fluffy. It is ARS00 Aries, with a kit of First Aid, Double Suction, Multi-Legs, and the leg ability of Adapter, which changes all terrains not already at A or S rank to A rank, for ultimate mastery across all terrains. Now, we have actually seen Aries prior to in story mode arc 3 of the game as an enemy NPC a number of times, but there actually was a difference between that version and the one we are getting officially, and that is that the enemy NPC was kitted out with double beam instead of double suction. That has been noticed in his trailer video and has since been acknowledged and will be fixed once he officially does go live as a pullable model that players can snag. First Aid is a setup-based skill that, when put on the field, will set up a plant that if himself or an ally finishes their heat phase with a damaged or broken part, it will restore the broken part back at 10% HP for passive restoring of broken parts. This can really come in handy for a lot of clutch moments, say if legs get broken or an arm gets broken, or you can't feasibly fit healing into a team. This is a really good way to fill in that hole and still keep something just as viable and versatile without having to eat a slot. Suction is a shooting-based skill that is moderately new to the game, but has been in for some time now, and actually is one of Aries' original attacks, which makes it really great since he gets to keep his original kit. But when used and you attack an opponent successfully, it will pull the opponent back to the center line, which means if you can time it right and say when a foe is just about ready to finish their cooldown phase, you can pull them back to start and double or even delay their cooldown, which will buy you those extra couple seconds to just barely outrun them or file in or sneak in an extra attack while they're in cooldown, say like with no dodge or no defend, and capitalize on. However, Suction is also a double-edged sword, much similar to how Blowaway, its counterpart, is. And in this case, if you time Suction incorrectly or poorly, such as say right as the foe starts their heat phase, using Suction will accelerate them to the center line and guarantee that they take their turn next. So it can be a very weird shooting skill to use, but if done correctly, can be very good for stalling tactics. Say for instance, someone with triple heavy break their legs, and it makes it very, very easy to pick them off and stall them, since you can guarantee they will not get a chance to take another turn. Multi-legs, as ironic as they are for Aries, with the adapter ability, is honestly very nice too. As even though multi-legs have the next best overall terrain coverage next to under biped, with the exception of float, of course, in very rare instances, the adapter ability is honestly is a nice touch too, as even though Aries' leg stats are kind of nominal, mostly in those sweet spots that you kind of want to be the bare minimum of, those are also the base stats before any leg terrain compatibilities are applied. And in this case, you can basically apply about another 10% or so to what you see here for more or less a better idea of final numbers in this case. But across the board though, his stats are honestly kind of mixed, but not too shabby either if I'm honest. About 3049 HP for his head, about 2900 HP for arm isn't too shabby. Legs at about 3550 is nice too, as ironic as it is and as tiny as those legs are. And it's also amazing that those tiny little legs can also support two heavy parts, which will also further bolster Aries' overall versatility, even though his kit only has one. His mobility of 595 isn't super great, but for standard multi-legs, this is kind of par for the course. A melee resist of 625 isn't really good at all, if I'm honest. Really could be much better, but if you are going to use his legs, you definitely want to be careful whenever fighting anyone with melee-based skills. A shoot resist of 1351 is definitely much better though, and able to tank hits much easier from shooting than it is from melee. A dodge of 662 really isn't all that great either, as it is going to be very tricky for Aries to dodge or graze a lot of things. Even attacks that have, say, low success rate are very likely to be landing more so than him dodging or grazing it. As a pure set score, I do honestly have to rate Aries a pretty solid 6.5 out of 10. Pretty modest stats across the board, nothing overly dangerous, overly broken or powerful, or overly weak either, if I'm honest. So he's kind of in that really nice little sweet spot of where you want to be. And even though Suction for both parts is kind of redundant in some cases, if timed correctly, it does honestly can be used to its advantage without it really getting in the way. As mixed parts, on the other hand, I do have to rate him higher at a 7 out of 10. and in some cases I'd even argue a 7.5, given that First Aid is absolutely fantastic anywhere you want to use it for that passive healing ability that it offers. Suction can be very good if you time it right and if you're very good with timing, so you can stall enemies in their cooldown phase. And multi-legs, even if his aren't, say, the greatest on the field, the adaptability does honestly come to his aid to kind of comp some of those lower skills and guarantee that he can still hold his own on the field.